In Portion-Vayechi, the most interesting thing about this, well, not the most interesting. One of the interesting points about this parsha is there is no, in the Torah, normally there's a break of 9 letters between parsha to parsha. There, or from chapter to chapter, if you will. Here, there is no break. It starts, we ended off, it says, these are the people, the Bnei Yisrael lived in Mitzrayim, in the land of Goshen. They took hold of the land and they grew. They were fruitful and multiplied very much. Then it says, right away, there's not a break in the line in the Torah. So a person reading it would not recognize that this is the beginning of a new parsha. So the question is, why, and it's called a parsha stuma, a closed parsha. So why is this parsha closed? So Rashi says, Lefisha Kevan Sheniftar Yaakov Avinu, because when Yaakov Avinu was niftar, when he died, he passed away from this world. Nistamu Einayim Valibam Shal Yisrael Mitzar Hashibud. Then the eyes and the hearts of Israel were closed up because of the Tzarat Hashibud, because of the distress of the impending subjugation. Shetchilu Sheavdam, that would begin when they were made subservient to the Egyptians. And Rashi says another reason is Shabikesh Galot et Akech Lefanav. Yaakov wanted to explain to his children what would come to them in the end of days, in other words, Mashiach, V'nistam Mimenu, and that ability was taken away from him. Hashem said, "No, I don't want them to know." Now, I have to admit that this year, I've been reading this parsha for many years already, and when I saw the words of Rashi, for some reason it resonated with me more than normal. And again, I'll go through what resonated, because I think it's an important thing to understand. Yaakov was the last remaining parent from all the boys. All the women, all the mothers had died, everybody's gone. So here's Yaakov Avinu, and he dies. What happens? Nistamu, I'm going to stop it where I want to. Nistamu eineihem v'libam shel Yisrael. The eyes and the hearts of Israel were stopped. They were plugged up. Anybody, you're in my boat. Your parents are still both still alive, Baruch Hashem. Okay, let them live to 120 till Mashiach comes, and all the way through past. Okay? But as a person who became an orphan about 5 years ago, I guess, I think that's how long my mother's gone, it stops your life. My father, okay, it hurt, but I could go on with, I did my shiva, I did my shloshim, I did my year, and my mother told me to shave, get the haircuts, done. I did it, okay? And we went on with life. You know, I thought about my father, I think about my father, but it wasn't the end. My mother passed away, and I don't know if you felt the same way, you'll tell me. When my mother passed away, the final person where I no longer have somebody to call as a parent, I was lost. And people ask me, how are you feeling? Stupidest question in the world to ask a mourner, but okay, fine. People ask you crazy questions. And I always said to them the same answer. Imagine you're in a boat in the middle of the ocean. You drop the anchor and it's broken, and you're just adrift. That's how I feel. Any other questions? And they shut down. Wow. But that's exactly like that. That's when I read it this year. I said, I understand these boys. It's the last, did you feel the same way? Or something like that?
Trying to remember.
Oh, okay, it's a long time ago, bro. It's something that burned into my mind. So when it came to this, that their hearts and their eyes were stopped. They were stuck in the moment. It took me. By the way, Baruch Hashem, I went past that stage, obviously, but for a long time, I wasn't there. That's why, if you look at many of my pictures of those years, my beard was down to here, around here.
You didn't shave for the whole
year? I didn't shave. Not the whole year, 3 years. I basically didn't shave for 3 years. I trimmed.
Hair?
No, I got it. My wife would have killed me. I got a haircut. But my beard, for the most part, it was down to here. I saw a picture.
Wow.
I looked like Michigan, but I didn't care. That was the point. I didn't care.
Wow.
I mean, I did it for my wife. I did it for the, I kept myself there, and I think I was happy. I think I put on a good face, but I wasn't ready to shave and everything else until about 3 years later. That's when I said, okay, enough is enough. Done. Now, was I right to do that? No. According to halacha, certainly I wasn't. I'm not going to argue halacha here. What I'm saying is I understand what they mean. That Rashi really talked to me this year, that your heart and your eyes are stopped up. You can't go, you go on, but you don't want to. And Rashi throws in Mitzarat HaShibud. The problem with even Rashi is saying Mitzarat HaShibud, I'm going on this for a long time because I want to make this point, is they didn't go in, they never felt Shibud. The sons never were part of the Shibud. They had to, the Shibud was the subjugation. They were never part of it. They had to wait till Levi, the last one, died. When all the brothers were gone, now we can begin. Why?
Still a memory of Yosef.
Still a memory of Yosef. When the last Holocaust survivor dies, that's when it's done. That's when it's only a matter of our collective Jewish memory. And it would be like the story of Esther, that people say did happen, didn't happen. They have a whole debate about it. Even though the Jewish Iranians go to her grave every single year, knowing exactly where it is, biblical scholars, amongst the Reform, will say it never happened. Okay, do what you want. So they're denying I pick on the Reform because I know they deny. Yeah. So it's crazy. Mom is crazy. The Jews denying that our history. Okay, they deny a lot of stuff, but they deny the whole Exodus. Actually, okay, so whoever doesn't believe that the Torah is written by God denies the whole system. So, but I'm just saying here, this is something that was later on, and they denied. So, how much more so? We already have Holocaust deniers. The only thing that's keeping it alive is people show you see my numbers. Or a family of person, again, probably have to get rid of 2 generations, but once you get rid of that, it's just another Jewish myth. So here's the same thing. So these kids the 12 tribes never felt the Shibud. And that's why it's hard to say, they felt it because it started Shibud. What Shibud you to bother me with? Okay? It's a question that you have to ask on Rashi. But the second part, Rashi, where Rashi is, and that's why he says Devar Acher, by the way, there's another explanation. He wanted to tell the future, and he couldn't because it was closed up from him. So now let's go on. So it says, I just want to give you that sort of background. Vayechi Yaakov be'eretz Mitzrayim. So Yaakov was in the land of Mitzrayim. Sheva Esrei Shana. He was there for 17 years. Okay? Now, what happened? How long was the famine? I spent a lot of time on this one pasuk. But why? How long was the famine?
7 years.
7 years. When did they come to Mitzrayim?
After 2 years.
After 2 years. That means 5 years. So after 5 years, he should have said, okay, thank you, Yosef, Tzaddik, come home with me. Okay, Tzaddik, you can't leave. Come for vacation. You won't be the first son that doesn't come home. Okay, I understand you have a job. Okay, goes in time with your job. Go home. Or go home with the sons. You said I want to come here just for the to last out the famine. Then I go home. He's a rich man. I would hire Yosef, come back home with me, period. What do you have to do? So what happens is we have to say that Yaakov understood that this was the beginning of their shibud, that they had to, of subjugation they would have to undergo, which is why he goes as Yaakov and not as Israel, that he will not strive with God and win this one. He has to go down. And that's why he stays there 17 years. He wants to be with his beloved son. So he stays there. Yaakov Shnei Yechayav. So Yaakov lived a total of Sheva Shanim Yarbeim Umat Shana. He lived a total of 147 years old. Why did he die so young? His father lived till 180. His grandfather lived till 175. Here, He's living till 147. What happened to him? He lost 33 years for crying out loud. What goes on?
Yaakov. Wasn't the years Yaakov was gone?
Say that again, please.
The years Yaakov was gone took that out of him?
I mean, Yosef.
Yosef, I'm sorry.
That's 22 years. No, that was 22. The reason he didn't have Yosef for 22 years was because Yaakov didn't show kibbutz love to his parents for 22 years, so Hashem pays him back, and that's the 22 years. But he's still living till 147. Yeah. What do you want to say?
Because when Pharaoh asked how old he was, he started complaining. Right?
Absolutely, you have it right. When Pharaoh asked, "How old are you?" he said, "I'm 130, and it's been a bitter life, and I'm not as old." If you count up those words, including Pharaoh's words, you'll come to 33. So, what do we learn from there? That when somebody asks you how you are, it's a simple response: Baruch Hashem. Really. You just say, thank God, I'm whatever my age is, I'm not great. You don't complain. You never complain about this because it's going to come back. Okay, so he dies again, 147 years old. What happens? Yisrael. So the days of Israel, in other words, the father came close to die. Vayikra livno Yosef. He called to his son Yosef. Why is he calling to Yosef? Because Yosef has the power. He's a viceroy. Okay? He can't call his sons to do this. He will talk to them later. But right now he's calling to Yosef. And the other thing also is, how did he know he was going to die? He got sick. In those days, they never got sick. You just sneezed and you died. One sneeze and you're dead. Okay? But he said it's not fear. This is an interesting midrash. Yaakov says it's not fear. People should have a chance to know that I'm going to die, so that we can tie things up nicely. So we should be able to get sick. He davened for that. Can you imagine? Okay. So
Does that also go with the sickness for just like the cold? That also where sickness comes from? Before that,
again, you have some time to prepare for your death. Whatever the sickness, it doesn't have to be a really bad machala, but
right. No, I'm saying, but before Yaakov died, anyone in the world just died on the spot, sneezing in the dead.
Yeah.
And B didn't get sick ever.
Correct.
So if they're bit by a venomous snake,
what's a venomous snake?
A rattlesnake.
So you want to say, will they die from that? You'll take it, maybe.
They die from that.
If they get eaten by, in other words, the normal way of death was you sneeze and you're dead. Obviously, when Abel didn't have to wait to sneeze, he got hit in the head or stabbed or whatever he got. I mean, there was a massive. When you get murdered, you get murdered. If an animal's going to bite you or something, you're going to die. By the way, it's not the animal that kills you; it's the sin that kills you, because that's what we're saying. In other words, nothing can hurt you. That's what we keep learning. Nothing can hurt you unless you deserve it. So Hashem, or it comes to the day of your death, whatever the case is going to be. So you could die in your sleep. You don't have to sneeze. You could just die in your sleep. That's the tzaddik's death. But if it's going to be, the point is they didn't get sick. So if you're going, something else is going to cause you sickness, you can get sick, yeah.
So they didn't get sick from the flu, but there's a reason I said venom, because you usually get unhealthy if you have venom in your system. Do they get sick, or they just die?
Again, the point was that you're picking if there's an outside source doing that, yes, they can get sick. We're talking about a normal sickness where a person is getting older and getting weaker and so on and so forth. That wasn't happening. It would be like, again, you have a person who's he doesn't age past 20, looks wise. He has the same vigor and vim as he has at 20. Okay? So now he's 80, 90, 100, 120, 180, 160. He looks the same. He's still strong. He's still lifting 400 pounds. Okay? You have some old people who can still lift 400 pounds because they stay in shape at 74, 75. I just saw the video. The guy lifted 400 pounds. Okay. What? It's a lot of weight to lift. And he's a pro wrestler. He kept himself in shape. It's Ric Flair. I give the guy credit. I can't lift 400 pounds. This guy lifted 400 pounds. Okay, now you could say it was fake weights. No, they verified it was actually 400 pounds. The point is that he can do it. He's not sick. Well, he may be sick from 1,000 different things. But the point is that he still doesn't look like an old guy. He looks, even though he's in his 70s, he looks pretty young for his age. You could say plastic surgery. I don't think he did any of that. But, I'm saying as a normal guy. So imagine, though, that's who these people were. They were living a long time. Now, again, if something else is going to cause an injury, Hashem's not going to protect idiots. If something happens, something happens. But in a normal way, the normal person died and looking like he's in great shape. And then a sneeze would cause it. That would be, or he could die in his sleep. Could be that too. It wasn't, again, he didn't have to sneeze and drop dead. He could have died in his sleep. The point was, there was no warning.
There's no fading.
Right, there was no fading. And Yaakov was praying for that. Let us at least know so that people can prepare. Okay, yeah.
So when it says he was the first one that got sick, you've been saying
the first person to get sick.
First person to get to fade off and get sick and die that way. So does it mean get sick or just get old and get weak? Because if you got sick and that's where sickness comes from, then how can you tell the common flu from the last stage or last week of their life?
Again, he seemed, from what I remember reading, he seemed to feel the life slipping away. He was getting notions of that. Okay, so however that, and people know when they don't feel right. They know when it's a cold, if you will. Again, it was no sickness, but they know when you're feeling a cold versus this doesn't feel normal. Right. And you can see that. Again, as a person gets older, by the way, you'll see their muscle mass getting less and less and less and less and less. They don't have that. And that's, again, they're working out. I mean, you have people who will fight nature, as you will. But Schwarzenegger doesn't look, he must be in his 60s or 70s or 80s right now. He's up there. 70s probably, yeah. He doesn't look like, again, the typical 70-year-old. I'll never forget, there was a woman who was 90 years old working. She was an accountant. You'll appreciate the story. 90 years old. And they were having a celebration for her at the Chinese restaurant. Kosher Chinese. And I was in Mishkiach. And it was, so they said, we're going to have this 90-year-old. And I see everybody with their walkers coming in. Okay, fine, there's all her friends. And so I said, so who's the birthday girl or a retirement party? A retirement party, I said. So who's Bala Simcha? Who's the Bala to Simcha? Who's we celebrate for? So they all said to me, she's not here yet. You'll notice her when she comes in. I was thinking, 90 years old, you would think, okay, fine. This young lady looked like she was in her 60s or 70s, bounces into the room. And everybody's, yay, you're here. I went up and said, whoa, stop the music here. You're the Bala of Simcha? You're 90 years old? She said, yeah, why? I said, you don't look a day over 60. She said, well, I keep myself in good shape, and I am working, I do other things. This woman was sharp as a tack, as the expression goes. You can say it was her genes. You can say it's a lot. I think it's an attitude many times. It's a real attitude. She had an attitude of life. She wasn't interested. To her, her age was just a number. That's all it is. It's a number. Well, I don't know how long she lives. I hope she's still alive. But that woman was an inspiration. All her other friends, 60 and 70, were, I tell you, they looked at the nursing home coming to us. But she bounced in, and I thought she was going to break the jig. I didn't know what she was going to do. Okay. But that's the point. Again, Yaakov he knew, he understood, the end is near. So he calls to his son. And again, he's calling to his son because that's who could get the job done. And he said to him, Vayomer lo, and he said to him, if I have found favor in your eyes, Simna yadcha tachat yerechi, put your hand under my thigh, And that was the way to make a shvuah. And you will do with me kindness and truth. Okay? What is kindness and truth? This is where we talk about death always. That is an act of gemilus chasadim, the act of loving kindness. Kindness is when I do something for you and you're going to do something for me. Act of loving kindness is when I do it for you and I expect nothing in return. There's 3 types of examples for gemilus chasadim that we always like to give. When you misamech the chatan ve'ed kala, when you cause a woman, the bride and the groom to be happy, okay? When you visit a sick person, and when you bury a person, when you malave them to their final resting place, okay? The 2 of them you understand, right? A sick person you don't want to be sick in that position. And you also, when you're dying, you don't want to be in that position. You only want to comfort other people. It comes to misamech the chatan ve'ed kala, though, what's wrong with having a bride and a groom rejoice? That should be like, no, I want that. The answer is no, you don't. You don't. I am married. I never want to be married. I never want to go through that headache again of finding my beshirt, as it were. I'm not interested. So I'm very happy to be Mesamecha the Chatan ve'ed Kala, and I don't want to ever go through that search mode again. My wife should live till 120, till Mashiach with me. I don't want to do it. For somebody who hasn't yet done it, so they have to wear the thing that is soon by me. But even that is a miserable thing because, when I'm single, I certainly want people to mismech the chatan. I want them to make me cause me to rejoice with my kala. But that's all. But again, I have to go through the agmas nefesh, the torture of going through this dating process. And for those who are lucky enough to see the person on the first date and to say this is it, they are blessed. There's no question about that. Majority of the people, vast majority, I would say 99% have to go on more than one, try it more than one time. And that is a miserable experience. And I don't think anybody likes it. Yeah, what was your question?
No, that was it.
That was it? Okay. Yeah. So if you're not married, like I said, by all means dance and dance your heart away. Maybe if you make them happy, you'll be lucky enough to you go with the first girl. You're it. Let's do it. Boom. Done. It's done. Okay. Halavai.
Wait, so that's all under act of loving kindness?
Yes.
Something that you don't want.
You don't want something back.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's the point of loving kindness. So I don't want it back. Chesed, I'm just doing a chesed. You ask me $5, here's $5. I'm expecting that if I need money, you're going to give me money too. It's a simple exchange. That's chesed. Simple act of chesed. But gemilus chasadim, act of loving kindness, is above that. I don't want it back. I have no interest to have it back. Okay. And then it says, what's this kindness and truth? Kindness and truth. Al na tikbareni b'Mitzrayim. Don't bury me in Mitzrayim. Do not. So what's his problem? He says, don't bury me in Mitzrayim. So Rashi says, Sov chaliyot, he gives 3 reasons. Sov chaliyot afara kinam. In the end, this dirt will become lice. And they're going to eat him and they're going to hurt me. Even though he's dead, a dead person still feels, the rabbis tell us, that they still feel when when something eating you, like the worms. And that's why it says in Pirkei Avot, Mara bebasar, mara berima. The fatter you are, the more worms are going to eat you. And apparently that does cause some sort of pain to the neshama or something else. I have no idea what that means, but apparently that is that you feel it even after death. Yeah.
When it says lice, is that referring to
the plague of lice. Okay. Yeah. And then it says, in other words, so the people who are buried outside of Israel cannot be part of the revival of the dead. What they have to do is tunnel their way to Eretz Israel before they can pop up. Yes, how these things actually work, do not ask me. I'm just reading what they are. So if you're buried outside, those who are buried here in South Bend, or those who are buried in Massachusetts, wherever people are buried, so they have to somehow tunnel their way to get to Eretz Yisrael, and then they can pop up. I don't know how that works. I'm not going to tell you. But that was his other reason. Again, I don't want the lights to heat me. I don't want the Tsar Gilgal. And then he says, Shelo Yasuni Mitzrayim Avoda Kechavim. They shouldn't make me an idol. Because what did he do? Remember the Midrash? He shook Pharaoh's hand, as it were. He blessed him. The water came up, and the Nile came up to meet Pharaoh. The famine ended. So he was afraid they would make him into an avodah zarah. Okay, so that's the three reasons he said, I don't want to be buried in Mitzrayim. And it says, Shechavti im avotai, and I want to lie with my fathers. So unasatani Mitzrayim, so you will carry me up from Mitzrayim, literally transport. Ukivartani bikvartam, and you will bury me in their grave, in the family graveyard. Fayomar, and he said, and Yosef answers, Anochi esta kidvarech, I will do as you according to your word. No problem. I will be happy to do it for you, Dad. What happens? What's his next line? Vayomer, and he says, He shavali, swear to me. Wait a second. He is your beloved son. Again, let's get the problems here. He's your beloved son. You don't believe him? And you don't believe him? Yeah. You're making him. I swear to me. You already said. He already said, I'll do it. Whatever you want, Dad. No problem. Done. Vayishavalo, and he swears to him. Vayishtachu Yisrael al Rosh Mitah, and Yisrael, again, Yaakov, bowed to the top of his bed. That was toward the front of his bed. So now why do you say, yeah?
No, I was saying, if you're bowing like this. Well, if you're lying down, you bow like this. What? If you're lying down, you bow like this. But if you're
he was sitting up. He was sitting up.
Yeah,
we already knew he was sitting up.
Oh, he was sitting up and he
Right,
bowed down?
right. He bowed down, right. So now, first thing is, why did he ask his son to swear? Because he was afraid. He knew that Pharaoh may not let him go. After all, he is the viceroy. He could easily tell him, Yosef, I understand your father wants to be buried there. Very nice. Send your brothers. You have work to do. But if he says, I swore, not I promised, I swore to him. So then there was a shavua, an oath that Yosef made to Pharaoh. Pharaoh apparently could not understand Hebrew. And as a leader of the world, he was supposed to understand all the 70 languages and be able to be conversant in them. So he told Yosef, you cannot allow anybody to know that you can speak, because then it'll be more languages than I know. Swear to me you won't do it. He does. And so now when he comes to him and says, I swore to my father, he would say, break that shavua. So you could say, if I break that, I can break the other one. What do you want? Now we can negotiate. Okay. And why did, first of all, why did Yisrael bow? He shouldn't have bowed. He's talking to his son. Since when does a father bow to a son? So Rashi explains, that you bowed, that once a year, the Midrash explains, the lion, the king of the animal kingdom, bows down to the fox. I've never seen it.
Is the fox in the bottom?
The fox is near the bottom, yeah. Okay. But once a year, the king of the whole animal kingdom bows down to show you're the king. In other words, when you have the king, when you have the power, we have to show deference to that power. So Yosef, Yaakov, who needs Yosef at this point, he bows down to him. Why at the rosh of the mita? Why the rosh of the bed? So it says he turned his head toward, as it were, towards the Shekhinah. From here you learn that the Shekhinah is dwelling above the head of a sick person. Okay, so by the way, that's why when you make a bracha, if you want to wish a person refuah shleim or something, the as it were, the Shekhinah is right above that sick person's head. So it's a great place to do that. Okay. Also, another thing is why Rosh Hamita? Because his bed was complete. There was not one wicked person in his whole family. Here you had Yosef, who was the king, and he was kidnapped or captured, and he lived amongst the non-Jews, and still he stood in his righteousness. So Yaakov is very happy that none of his kids went off the derech. He has everybody that's great. And so now he can die in peace, if you will. Okay, very nice. So now the next part, Vayihi acharei hadrim ha'eleh, and it was after these things. What are these things? After we just talked about Vayomer Yosef, and he said to Yosef, who's a he? So it says one of the people who would inform him. And some people say this was Ephraim, his son Ephraim. Why Ephraim? Because Ephraim was always near his grandfather learning Torah. This is going to become important as to why we say Yisimcha Elokim ke Ephraim v'che Menashe. Right? We put Ephraim before Menashe, where it should have been Menashe and Ephraim. Menashe is the oldest, not Ephraim. So why is he putting Ephraim before? Because Ephraim learned Torah. Apparently Menashe didn't, he may have learned, but wasn't as great a learner. Whatever the case is going to be. He wasn't, but Ephraim was constantly with his grandfather. So Ephraim comes back to tell his dad, hey, grandfather's sick. Yes.
So you could say Ephraim was someone of the tents?
Someone of the tents?
I forgot what they call Yaakov.
Yoshev Ohalim, he was Ishtam Yoshev Ohalim. He was a simple, complete man who lived in the tents. Yeah. No, I don't think Ephraim was that. I think he was just going to his grandfather and being serving his grandfather, wanting to learn by his grandfather. I'm not sure that he was always there. He was there apparently more than Menashe.
Right.
So I'm not sure. Menashe was also the interpreter. So he was working with his dad more than Ephraim. Ephraim's still the youngest. So it could have been that the youngest kid gets to go on these trips. But I don't think he was... I'm not sure if he would have been necessarily the one who's doing it. And he also showed more promise, apparently. So, Yaakov's putting all his energies into the guy who's showing promise, not the firstborn. This is when you see the firstborn getting ripped off every single time. It's something like how many times the firstborn gets ripped off. Because what happens, what you learn here is, Torah doesn't go by birthright. It goes by who's ever capable of doing it. And it's something that we have to remember. Not everybody should learn Torah, but, no, there's no but there. Everybody, period. So everybody should learn Torah. There are those who are more equipped, so you have to give them bigger challenges. And so that they learn more and more and more, so they live up to their potential. Apparently Ephraim was one of those people who lived up to their potential. And Menashe, again, for whatever reasons, didn't fall into that category. I'm sure he learned Torah, but I'm sure he visited his grandfather, who was not that far away anyway, but apparently it wasn't his thing. Is
that the two we talk about? One is the example of the one who should become a scholar and the other one becomes a supporter of...
No, that's Yisachar Zevulun. Yisachar Zevulun. Yisachar is the scholar. Zevulun is his brother who says, I'll pay you to learn, and I'll support you, and we'll share the Torah. And I'll share my money, you share the world to come. Yeah.
So then, whoever shows more promising promise towards learning Torah, he gets the blessing, even if he may or may not be the firstborn.
Yeah. Well, again, you give his. Everybody's blessed. Right. I'm just saying that if I'm going to put all my energy into somebody, who should I put my energy into? The guy who really has the desire and the capability to learn, or the guy who doesn't really have the capability? Who should I put all my energy into? If I want,
If you want to learn in person.
Sorry?
If you want to.
Yeah, I want to learn in person. I want the person who's going to carry on to the next generation. Right. So I'm going to put it into that person. So I think that's what you're seeing here. Again, I'm not saying that Menashe didn't learn. I'm not saying that Yaakov never learned with Menashe. I'm not saying they didn't spend time. What I'm saying is that's not where you spend your energy. You put in energy, but when you see somebody is really going head and shoulders above, so I want to invest my energy in and challenge that person much more than the other person who will learn like a balabas. He'll be a good Jew. There's nothing. Nobody says you have to learn 24 hours a day. You can go to work, you can do this, you can do that, but you have to. Learning Torah should be the main profession of every Jew. Again, what that means is I have to support my family, I have to do everything, but I should see all of that as secondary to my 5 minutes of learning Torah at night, if I'm not equipped. And then I take out the Shulchan Aruch, I don't take out, or I could take out Musar books. I don't necessarily have to go through the Gemaras. Yeah, what was your question?
It's later on, but when Yaakov wants to give his grandchildren a blessing, Yosef sees the whole firstborn problem. This happened with you.
Yeah. And so Yaakov says, Yosef says, well, Dad, you have the hands on the wrong place. And what does Yaakov say? I know, my son, I know. Does Yosef say anything after that? No. What was Yosef's only concern? That if remember, he's blind, he's nearly blind. So when he goes like this with his hands, he thinks, oh, wait, he inverted the bracha. So therefore, the bracha won't take hold. Once the father says, I know what I'm doing, he knows that bracha will take hold, he stops. He doesn't argue anymore. So really what he was concerned was that the bracha wouldn't take place. But once he said it would, so fine. Whether or not I agree with you, disagree, that's not my business. That's up to God to really pull this off, but that's where that comes into. Okay, we'll have to stop here. Thank you very much.